What's up guys, welcome to Echo Productions. I'm Silas Willoughby and today's video is going to be a bit different. I'm not going to teach you a specific technique or review a new product. Instead, I want to take an in-depth look at what it is that really sets apart good filmmakers from lousy ones. And yes, we will be getting into the new Canon EOS R and the Nikon Z7 later in the video. And the first thing to realize about filmmakers is that there are no decent filmmakers. There are good filmmakers and bad filmmakers. YouTube gives a very different perspective than reality. On YouTube you see all these insanely talented filmmakers, from Sam Colder to Ryan Connolly, all of whom make incredible content on a regular basis. But if you were to look at the actual number of highly talented individuals or teams, Film Riot, you would see that that's actually a very small number, a double-digit number. So let's take a look at the bigger pool. We've all been watching the big game with all the big name brands and the commercials when a local commercial runs. And generally, it's a huge contrast from the commercials we've gotten used to. Local commercials almost always suck. And sure, they had a lower budget, but most commercials, and I'm picturing local car dealerships right now, look like something I could have written, shot, and edited in under 2 hours. Yet they charge full price for them and the local businesses pay. Because, in general, local filmmakers are very non-flashy. They aren't innovative or creative anymore. They have settled into a boring 9-to-5 lifestyle. Guys, filmmaking isn't supposed to be boring. If you decided to be a filmmaker, you chose a job that would allow you to create, to try new things, and to tell your stories. It's a job that should be exciting, interesting, new, and dynamic. But too often, it's not for most filmmakers. Go to Google and do a quick search to find your local filmmakers. Then go on their websites and check out their demo reel. There's a very good chance it looks something just like this. This is pretty much every local filmmaker's demo reel, the ones that have a boring 9-to-5 lifestyle. They got to a point where they realized their videos were good enough, that they were making enough money, and they lost their drive to create. That drive was best described by Ryan Connolly when he said, "You should be willing to live under a bridge if it means you can still be a filmmaker." That was paraphrased, by the way. I don't actually know his actual quote. Someone who is willing to live under a bridge would always be willing to work harder to improve. In fact, I touched on this in my video about Peter McKinnon and Zach Ramelin. I want to get down to the core of what it is that sets creators like Pete, Zach, or even, and yeah, I'm branching out here, creators like Sam Colder apart. Spoiler warning, it's their continued ability to do something different and new. Sam makes travel films, so is it his cool transitions and epic locations? No, it's his continued progression. Good creators are always getting better, learning new things. If you were to watch Peter's first videos, you wouldn't be that impressed. You'd be perplexed as to how he has 2 million plus subscribers. Or Zach's first videos, where it's very similar to Peter's. He was leaning way too much on Peter's style and not developing his own. Unfortunately, that's where a lot of us get stuck. And we get to the point where our videos look close enough to our favorite creators that we accept them as good and then stop striving to make them perfect. If you get only one thing out of this video, I want it to be a renewed desire to improve. In today's participation trophy culture, no one is willing to work hard to get to the top. They expect the top to come to them, or that they will get their copying someone else's work. No. Today's culture is a lie, and the ones at the top will agree. How did they get there, you ask? By working hard. Harder than everyone else. Harder than you. So yeah, pretty much the moral of the story is to never stop striving to get better. Your videos will never be good enough. At least they should never feel like that. I have not to this date made a video that I was able to call good. There was always something I didn't like about it. Anyway, let's get into the rest of the video. People often ask me if I've been to film school or where I learned filmmaking. And I always just say YouTube and then laugh a little bit self-consciously at myself. But that to me at least seems like where all the innovative filmmakers are that aren't in Hollywood yet. Not film school. In fact, most of the people I know who are just out of film school know nothing I don't, except they may know more of the basic history of film than I do, but they know less about filmmaking. But they all come out, get their T5 eyes and their cinema prime lenses and get to work. And for the first year or so, you see a huge improvement in their work. And then they either make the jump to the next level and ditch their T5 eyes somewhere along the way, or they stall and become one of those boring local filmmakers I was talking about earlier. And another thing about a lot of filmmakers is that their videos aren't innovative. They are still stuck in 2005, where any video was a good video because no one made videos. They got their old Canon camera bodies, their army of prime lenses, and their knowledge of how to make great videos in 2005 and continue to do that. They make excellent videos for 2005. Well, you know what? 2005 style content isn't going to cut it in almost 2019. Take a filmmaker like Ryan Connolly. I know I keep talking about him today, but he started out in the early 2000s and he was making that type of content back then. But he has continued to improve, to innovate, and now look at where he is. Anyway, let's get into the camera portion of this video. The main thing I've been trying to stress throughout this video is innovation and improvement. And the same idea carries over to the camera industry. If I was to buy a new camera under $400, I would buy either the Panasonic GH5 or the Sony a7 III, or the a7S III when it comes out, not a Canon or Nikon camera. Canon and Nikon are still great for photography, but in the video game they are losing more and more ground to Sony and Panasonic. Now, before any of you Canon or Nikon fanboys attack me for either not having the cameras, but having thoughts on them, or for simply not praising Canon or Nikon, give me a chance to explain myself. Canon and Nikon just released brand new mirrorless cameras of their own to try and rival Sony. Canon with the EOS R and Nikon with the Z7 and Z6. And both look like killer cameras for photography. So I doubt it'll hurt Nikon too much since Nikon primarily caters to the photography crowd anyway. But Canon tries to cater to both the photography crowd and the filmmaking crowd. But on paper, the EOS R just doesn't hold up against the other cameras, for video at least. It only shoots 4K at up to 30 FPS, which is a real bummer. 4K 60 FPS is something that Panasonic at least is including in all their new releases. It doesn't shoot 1080p 120 FPS, you have to go all the way down to 720p for that, and there's a 1.7 times crop in 4K, which defeats the point of a full frame sensor. Basically, this is just a 5D Mark IV and a smaller, lighter body. However, the autofocus and color will still be exceptional, I'm sure. I'm willing to go as far as saying that if Canon doesn't change something big in the next couple years, however, they will be completely out of the prosumer consumer market. Which again brings us back to innovation. Companies like Sony, they innovate. Companies like Canon just aren't. Filmmakers like Ryan Connolly, they innovate. And filmmakers like Joe from your local production house don't. And that doesn't just apply to local filmmakers. I know it sounds like I'm just hating on them, but there are some great ones out there, the same way there are a lot of lousy filmmakers on YouTube. It all boils down to who's willing to work the hardest. Are you? Because if not, there's another guy out there who's going to take it from you because he will never be satisfied. He will always keep striving. Anyway, I know that was a lot to take in, but I hope you got something good out of it. I'm curious what you think, so make sure to leave your thoughts in the comments down below. And if you want to see more videos every week, make sure to subscribe and hit that bell. Anyway, this has been Echo Productions, I'm Silas Willoughby, and I'll see you in the next one.